Hi, my name is Cayman. I work on the Children and Young Persons team, and today I'm going to do a short piece about unhelpful thought habits that we may have and look at how we can challenge these thoughts. We have to remember that thoughts are just thoughts. They are not actually always factually correct, and if they are very negative, they can make us feel sad, worried, and upset. So it's important that we challenge our thoughts. See, are they actually based on fact? Are they useful to us? And if they're not, then see, is there a different, more positive thought that we could choose to have instead that might help us to feel a little bit better? So I'm going to look at 6 unhelpful thought types or categories of unhelpful thoughts. These are critical self, self-blame, should and musts, predicting the future, mind reading, and compare and despair. I'm going to look at each one, suggest how you might question that thought to see if it's actually true or useful, and then look at an alternative thought that you might choose instead of the negative one. Critical self. The first thought type we're going to look at is the critical self. This is where we find fault with ourselves and put ourselves down. We might think things like, I'm useless, can't do anything right, or I'm no good at this. So we ask ourselves, what are the things I am good at? If you give yourself time to look, there will be plenty. You ask, what would my friends say about me? Would my friends say that I'm no good at anything? I don't think so. So we have challenged that negative thought and found it wasn't actually right, and it certainly wasn't very useful. So then we look at replacing that negative thought with a much more positive one, such as, I may not be perfect, but there are lots of things I am good at, and I have lots of great qualities. Self-blame. The next negative thought that we can have is self-blame. So we may blame ourselves if something doesn't go well and assume it's all our fault, saying things like, I really messed up there, that's totally my fault. But when we actually question that particular thought by asking ourselves, what were all the other things that were going on that meant it didn't work out so well? What else was happening at the time? We may find that there were lots of other reasons why it may not have gone so well. And then we can replace that negative self-blaming thought with a more positive one, like, okay, that didn't go so well, but there are lots of reasons for that, and hopefully it'll go better next time. Should and must. Another negative thought habit that we can develop is around should haves or shouldn't haves or must do thoughts. We may say to ourselves, I must do that, or I should have done that, or I really need to do this or that. By having these thoughts and using this language with ourselves, we are really putting ourselves under pressure and maybe creating unrealistic expectations for ourselves, which might just cause us to feel bad if we don't achieve them. So again, we have to ask these thoughts some questions. Who says I need to do this? Why am I putting myself under this pressure? Is it really something I need to do? Or could I break it down into smaller, more manageable steps? And then replace that negative, pressuring thought with one that is much more caring and positive, like, I'm actually doing just fine right now. Or, if I need to do something new, it's okay to take my time, do it gradually, and ask for help along the way. I will get there. Predicting the future. I think we all may be a little bit guilty at times of thinking that we can predict the future. We can make assumptions about what's going to happen in the future or how things will be for us. We may say things to ourselves like, I'll never be able to do this, I'll never have any friends, it's all just going to be too difficult for me. But if we stop and question ourselves and our thoughts by asking ourselves, what real evidence do I have that this will happen? Do I have the power to predict the future? Do I have a crystal ball? that works or superpowers for predicting the future. You'll find that you can't actually predict the future at all and that you don't have strong evidence that something will happen. So it's best to let those negative thoughts go and replace them with something more positive, like, I can only control my present and do my best now. The future is not entirely in my control, and it has many, many possibilities. Mind reading. Mind reading is something that many of us do a lot of the time too. We assume that we know what other people are thinking, and may often think that people are thinking badly about us. We may say things to ourselves like, I know they don't like me, or I know they think I'm no good at this. But again, you have to stop and question that thought by asking, how can I possibly know what someone else is thinking? Maybe these are just my thoughts and not theirs. And this then makes room for positive thoughts, like, I know that I'm a good person. I'm living the best life I can right now. And I know there will always be people who don't like me as much as others, but that's okay. Compare and despair. The final thought habit I want to mention is compare and despair. This is when we compare ourselves to others, seeing all the positives in others and the negatives in ourselves, and feeling that we are not as good as or as capable as other people. But again, we need to question that thought. Is there a more balanced way of looking at things? Are there things that I do well that others don't do so well? Am I just focusing on a few things and not on the bigger picture? And again, when you have done this, you may find that there is a lot more room for positive thoughts, like, yeah, everyone has different strengths and skills. There are lots of things that I'm good at. So, just to recap, many of us can develop negative thinking habits and have negative thoughts, which, if we stick with them and believe them, can make us feel bad about ourselves or our situation. But we have to remember that thoughts are just thoughts. They are our own creation, and they are not always true. So if you have a negative thought about yourself or your situation, stop. Take a few seconds to question that thought, to see if it's true, or if there's any evidence to back it up, or if it's useful to you. And if it's not, look for a different, more positive thought that will make you feel better about yourself. With a little bit of practice, you will have replaced negative thinking habits with lots of positive ones, and hopefully be a happier you. If you want more information on this, you can go to www.getselfhelp.co.uk/unhelpful.htm, or a very useful book to read is The Anxiety Solution, A Quieter Mind, A Calmer You by Chloe Brotheridge, published in 2017. Thank you, hope you enjoyed, and talk to you soon.